Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Random Vlogging. So, today I I want to kind of fill you guys in on why I kind of disappeared from my YouTube channel in general after my stream on Tuesday. Um, Anyone that tuned into my 9 or 10 hour stream, I can't remember exactly how long it was, on Tuesday. Thank you. That was a lot of fun. Very, very draining, to be 100% honest. Like, I was very much worn out after it. But it was cool. I raised a little bit more money. I still don't have anywhere near enough to even get to LA right now. But due to some, I guess, encouragement from some of my friends, I haven't given up yet. I'm going to have to pretty soon here because, again, within the next week-ish, I have to buy my ticket. And if I don't have enough money for the ticket, then there's nothing I can do. But at least for a little bit, I'm going to continue trying to raise money. And we'll see how it goes. My DMs Guild Dragonite has actually been making an okay amount of money. So I might be able to use that to help offset the cost. It's not a ton. It's less than $50. Let's put it that way. And it's been up for a couple months now. So, you know. But anyway, the reason that my original plan was I was going to have a new Vox Machina in Drangleic out on Thursday. I was going to have another TJ's Thoughts on Friday. I hadn't quite picked the topic yet, but I have so many things that I want to talk about, like Crouching Tiger, the new Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon movie on Netflix, and a bunch of other things. So that was my intention. On Wednesday, I went to see my therapist, which I do about every other week. And what ended up happening was we got to talking about some of the really rough stuff that's been happening, and something that hasn't happened to me. It happened just recently, and it hasn't happened since I was 19, which I call losing time. The way my doctor explained it when I was first diagnosed with depression was that my brain was being flooded with so much information from my depression and my anxiety and just everything going on that it would eventually reach a point where it couldn't really accept any more information. And so it would stop accepting information long enough to process everything that was going on. And so for that period of time where my brain just wasn't accepting new information, according to my internal clock, time would stop for me. The first time I realized it, I was doing some homework in my room. And I looked at the clock and it was like 1 o'clock. I did like 2 problems, which took a grand total of about 15 minutes. They were not incredibly, difficult problems or anything like that. I just kind of jotted them down. I looked at the clock again and it was 4 something. According to my own internal chronometer, only like a grand total of about 30 minutes tops had passed. But according to the actual clock, hours had passed. And that was what prompted me to go on medication and everything, because I figured that was not a good thing. So that happened to me again recently. And so I went to my therapist to talk about that and all the other stuff that was going on in my life. And she seemed a little bit concerned at first. She started digging for more information. And the fun thing about it is that portion of my life doesn't exist according to my brain. I have no idea what I do. I don't know if I go on autopilot. I don't know if I become a different person. I have no idea what's happening in that brief moment in time. I only know what happens before and after it. And that's rough because unless I'm staring at a clock, um, I don't realize that it's happened until generally long after it has happened because I'll look down and go, that doesn't make sense. And it's a very different experience from just like kind of, not realizing that time is passing. Everybody's had that situation where you kind of look, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been doing this for 2 hours or I've been doing this for 3 hours. Everybody has had stuff like that. This is very different. It's not, wow, I didn't realize time was passing. It's time didn't pass. It's almost like I jumped into the future somehow. And it's very unsettling. It's very, very jarring. And it's incredibly difficult to explain because it doesn't sound that bad until you experience it. So I'm describing this to my therapist, and she brings out her diagnostic book to look at definitions of diagnoses and stuff like that. Which is another thing. Like if you can get your therapist to have to go back to the book and go, that's interesting, and have to re-look up what they've spent their life learning, that is an achievement. So what ends up happening is as she's looking through this, she kind of comes clean and she's like, well, I'm relatively certain you have PTSD from whatever happened in your childhood that caused you to repress that memory and all of the other stress and abuse that you've gone through. You have PTSD. Or there's a very good chance that you have PTSD. There's nothing like concrete, like I wasn't diagnosed or anything like that, but she's relatively certain that I've got PTSD. And one of the things that sometimes happens, my understanding is it's relatively rare, but is common enough that it is linked with PTSD, is what's called disassociation. Disassociation is basically your brain, from my very basic understanding, it's basically your brain cutting off portions of your brain to help you deal with certain aspects. If any of you guys have ever heard of multiple personality disorder, that doesn't technically exist. And there is a long, long history as to why the diagnosis of multiple personality disorder is gone, mostly because it was a very poor description of what was actually happening. If someone does show distinct personalities that are unaware of each other, or sometimes they are aware of each other, but very distinct personalities, they don't have multiple personality disorder. They have what's called DID, dissociative identity disorder. And what that means is that when they are taking on these other personalities, they are disassociating. They no longer have access to the full capabilities of their memories and their experiences. They are, stuck in a very limited aspect, which can sometimes take on its own personality. Now, an actual diagnosis of DID is so incredibly rare, it's considered a unicorn in psychology. Mostly because a lot of the people that have been misdiagnosed with multiple personality and DID in general have developed these other personalities due to unintentional coercion from their therapists or psychologists, where they have basically the psychologist has created these identities by subconsciously manipulating the experience of the person that they're attempting to help through the use of guided questions and things like that. Again, none of this is intentional. It's all unintentional. But that's one of the reasons why DID is kind of, this mythical unicorn. Disassociation in general is a little bit more common, but still relatively rare. Um, and so my therapist thinks, again, none of this is confirmed, none of this is concrete, but it does kind of explain what's happening, that due to the just massive amounts of trauma and abuse, that I'm now starting to more fully understand, um, that I've gone through my entire life, that I've developed post-traumatic stress disorder, and the way that my brain has decided to deal with it, one of the ways, there's quite a few of them, is by disassociating. Um, I don't know what happens when I lose time, but my therapist thinks that I might just be disassociating, and it could be something as simple as I just, become a vegetable for, 20 or 30 minutes. It could be that I have, another distinct personality that takes over and does things. There's quite literally billions of different things it could be. And jumping to any conclusions right now would just be a bad idea in general, because due to the fact that these things happen when I'm not around anyone, like they've only ever happened when I'm alone, um, there's no real way for me to know what's happening. Um, Beyond filming myself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, um, there's no way for me to figure out what's going on, because again, my brain has taken a portion of my memory and just completely cut it off from my conscious mind. Um, so getting this information and finding out, I've known for years that I was emotionally abused most of my life. And I've learned how to deal with a lot of it in a very productive way. Um, and For the most part, I've learned how to function in spite of just massive amounts of self-worth issues. And at one point, I was fairly codependent, and I had a lot of issues, and I've gotten to the point where I've worked through most of them, as well as I can. There's going to be permanent damage that I have to deal with for the rest of my life. That's part of the depression, and my anxiety is due to traumatic experiences from my childhood and through most of my adult life, I'm now realizing. Um, so yeah, that's permanent. That's something that never goes away. But I've learned how to deal with it in relatively healthy manners. I've learned how to not let it rule my life. Um, the PTSD, no one has ever thrown that around. No one has ever uh, even considered that I might be suffering from post-traumatic stress. Um, and it's weird, um, because for the longest time, um, my inability to deal with certain situations and some of the triggers that cause me to go into extreme depressions and things like that. For a long time, I thought it was just because I was too weak to be able to deal with it, and that um, uh, I wasn't strong enough to be an adult. I wasn't strong enough to live in the real world, um, and that there was something wrong with me, because I couldn't deal with situations that other people could. And I had these triggers that would cause me to hyperventilate. They would cause me to go into panic attacks. They would cause me to go into extreme depression. Um, they would cause paranoia every so often, that I thought everyone was out to get me. And Like I said, for years and years of my adult career, I figured I just wasn't I wasn't strong enough. I was broken, and that was somehow because I wasn't trying hard enough. I wasn't working hard enough. Um, and Now having somebody that's not me tell me, no, there's a very good chance that you actually have something that explains all of these. That doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're broken or anything like that. It means quite literally bad shit has happened to you, and it's affected you profoundly. Um, so again, I don't I don't have quote unquote diagnosed post traumatic stress disorder. I don't have a little sheet that says no, he is 100% he has PTSD and blah blah blah. To be perfectly honest, I don't know if that even exists, if a diagnosis is required by a medical psychologist or anything. Like none of that I know at all. All I know is that my therapist is relatively certain that a lot of the issues that I'm having right now are because of PTSD and because I've put myself back into an abusive environment, and it's triggering me over and over and over again. Um, and now I'm starting to disassociate again. Um, so, to be blunt, it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying to think that um, I could be disassociating and whatever's happening while that's happening, I won't have any access to. I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I become when this happens. Um, and yeah, so yeah, my therapist and I both agree that I'm just in an incredibly unhealthy, bad situation. And unfortunately for me right now, there's nothing anyone can do to get me out of it. Um, I'm stuck here. Uh, I have no job. I have no car. I have no source of income beyond the measly amount of money I make from the DMs Guild and from streaming. My YouTube income is locked behind a minimum payout, so that's worthless to me, and my Patreon is relatively small. So I have no way to support myself. I have no way to get out of this incredibly toxic, unhealthy situation until I finish my schooling and are able to get a job that actually pays enough to support me. Um, which, due to the fact that I don't have a car now because mine died, uh, is going to be even more difficult because now not only do I have to be able to make enough money to get an apartment and afford food and utilities and health insurance and things like that, I also have to be able to get enough that I can afford a car. So, yeah, life is really, really bad right now. Um, and Unfortunately, I simply haven't been able to do anything for my YouTube channel beyond trying to film this. I've planned on filming this, I don't know, 3 or 4 times now, and I finally got up enough courage to do it. Um, so, yeah, I'm not okay by any definition of the word. I am very, very, very not okay. Um, and as bad as it is right now, it's going to get worse. That's just how it works. And I'm confident that I have an amazing group of friends who support me and are willing to help me out in whatever way they can. And I have a lot of resources at my disposal if I get to the point where I can't deal with it anymore. So I currently I currently don't feel that I'm a danger to myself. I currently don't feel that my life is in danger in any way. And if I ever do get to that point, I'm confident that I know how, and I have before been able to seek out help uh, before attempting to take matters into my own hands. So, for any of you watching that are worried about, me doing something bad, um, there's very little chance of that. Um, Mostly due to the fact that there are an amazing, lovely group of people out there that care very deeply for me and have gone out of their way to help me out and help me deal with just this massive amount of horrendousness. Um, However, even with that, this is not fun. This is just horrendous and horrible, and um, I wake up every morning terrified of what the day is going to bring. I go to sleep every night terrified of what's going to happen the next morning. Um, I can't I can't be by myself. I can't uh, I can't do anything in my own home for fear of inviting more abuse. So yeah, it really sucks. That's one of the reasons why I was trying so hard to raise the money to go to LA. Um, because getting out of this incredibly toxic environment would probably be one of the best moves I can make right now. Um, so even if it's just for a couple of days, getting away from it, getting away from the abuse and everything, uh, would be incredibly beneficial. And so, yeah, not that I'm, trying to get sympathy money out of anybody, but yes, I want to give Critical Role the gift. To be 100% honest, giving a gift to Critical Role would be another thing that would actually help me because, being nice to other people makes you feel better. It really does. Um, but being able to, get 2,000 miles away from the things that are causing me, stress and anxiety and that are triggering my depression would be incredible. Um, so yeah, we'll see what happens. I've got another buddy that lives just out of state that's offered to let me use his guest bedroom if I ever need to, and so uh, I may take advantage of that relatively soon, if for no other reason than to get myself, that little boost of health that will help me keep going. But anyway, I don't know when I'm going to stream again, but if anyone has felt guilt-tripped enough to help me get to LA, I will put a link in the bottom to my donation uh, thing through Twitch alerts. Again, this is the intention of this is not to invoke sympathy and invoke donations out of you guys. It's simply to let you know kind of the whole process behind what I'm doing, behind what I'm going through. I want you guys to understand the whole truth, not the partial truth that I have been giving. Um, so yeah, that's all for me today. I will hopefully see you guys tomorrow for something because I have a couple video ideas that I want to put out there. I just haven't been able to. So anyway, again, that's all for me today. I will see you guys tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye.